This is our second installment of our Conversations with Social Entrepreneurs series. I'm Dean Snyder. I'll be hosting the conversation today. I do want to announce that in curriculum committee this past Tuesday, our curricular focus, social enterprise and innovation, was passed by the curriculum committee. This is the second focus that we have at the college. It's the product of an ongoing collaboration between me and Kevin Magruder. It'll include the addition of 3 new courses. Kevin will be instructing an introduction to social enterprise, which will include writing a business plan for a social enterprise. We've also added an accounting for social enterprise course, which will be instructed by a local practitioner. And then I'll be instructing a 200 level course, Enterprise, Politics, and Society, which will take a social scientific kind of look at social and alternative enterprises. We should also acknowledge the Meg Hansen project for socially responsible enterprise. The credit should go to Eric Miller for an advancement for doing the work of launching this project, and thank you as well to our generous alumni donors. So today we have Lela Klein and Amaha Selassie of Gem City Market. Gem City is a cooperative grocery store serving Dayton's West Side. So let's begin. Lela and Amaha, can you tell us about Gem City Market and your roles there?
Well, maybe you want to begin. Here we go. Sure. So Gem City Market is a full service cooperative grocery store that came out of a realized need that we have 40,000 residents and no access to fresh fruits and vegetables. We had no full service grocery store in the area. With some people, they use the term food desert, but we like the word food apartheid more because we want to acknowledge that it was intentional underdevelopment of the area. And so the community came together to open up a grocery store because we realized that we couldn't wait for others, that we needed to leverage our gifts and talents and resources towards meeting that need. And I am one of a multitude of co-founders along with my esteemed colleague, Lela Klein. And on that note, I'll pass it to Lela.
Well, I was gonna say you can keep talking if you want. I can share slides.
Yeah, sure. So what you're seeing right here is actually a picture of our groundbreaking ceremony. That oftentimes, we're very participatory and we're very rooted inside the community. And so oftentimes, we see a groundbreaking, you'll see 4 or 5 people and they'll have their shovels, everybody else. But we knew that the community brought us to this point, so we wanted to have a groundbreaking with the community. And so this is how we ended up, right? And so you can see most of the people coming together and creating it. And this is actually a picture of our annual meeting where we're probably voting on a liquor license sometime. I don't know what the actual vote was, but the community is exercising democracy, right? So another aspect of co-ops is this notion of how we create democratic governance, right? And how community members turn from recipients to co-strategists, and we're co-creating our future together. And so democracy is a huge part of cooperative development. And I guess the inside the market, we have a community kitchen, health clinic, and community room because we want to learn how to make fresh fruits and vegetables, how to cook them in different ways. We want to provide more access to healthcare and testing, and also we wanted to have a third space. So you have your home and your work, but working you go in the community and have community. So we wanted to build this place where we build deeper relationships. Because community transformation is based upon deep relationships, right? So we wanted to focus on how we're building the trust and connecting people across differences that we can imagine together the future that we want to inhabit.
Yeah, and I'll just show just pictures of the market so you can get a sense. So yeah, this is the market when it was under construction. So as Amaha said, we really put a huge emphasis on community democracy and the community as the developers of the market. So we built the mechanism for the community to act to meet the need that they had identified, that, you know, and that we as a community, as a neighborhood, knew what we needed. And so, you know, with the scaffolding that we put in place through our social enterprise, the community was able to enact. So you can see here a couple of slides of us giving tours to our community owners. So this is Chevelta Harding, who is a board member of the market, giving a tour to community owners during the construction process. So we really try to treat our ownership, which is like, we have over 5,000 people who have become members of the cooperative, and the cooperative owns the grocery store. So these three people, though they've each put in like $100 or whatever it is, they are the owners of the store. So they are touring the market. This is our opening day. People are preparing to walk into the market. You can start to see some of our shoppers in the market. That's Robin, our customer service manager, serving somebody at the register.
That's Sierra.
And as a Sierra, yeah, the mask makes it hard to see. Famous poet Sierra Leone checking out at the Jump City Market. And then, as Amaha said, we have the community room and the teaching kitchen. So here's a couple of images of programming that we've run out of our third spaces. This is a group of kids who came in and made English muffin pizzas with a local community chef who taught them how to make that as a kind of a nutritious and delicious snack that they could make at home. So yeah, the market is 15,000 square feet. 8,000 of that is a traditional retail grocery, and then the rest is kind of like this community-centered third space. Here's Amaha giving a tour to a bunch of co-op folks from around the state, and you can kind of get a peek to our deli. We're just trying to find all the pictures that actually show the market. So yeah, those are just some images of our market.
She got better access to more pictures than I do. I'm like, hey, how do you get some of these pictures?
My stepdad took most of them.
Well, thank you both for that overview. The second question centers on your educational experiences and how they influenced your professional trajectory. Lela, you can talk specifically about Antioch. I think that would be great for those in attendance. So go ahead.
You want to go first, Lela?
Sure. So, yes, I'm an Antioch alum. I grew up in Yellow Springs, and I went to Antioch in 99 and 2000. I went to 3 different undergraduate institutions and then eventually went on to law school. And none of it prepared me for social entrepreneurship. And I didn't go to business school. I didn't ever take a finance class, really, and certainly knew nothing about grocery. But I think what Antioch taught the kind of community building piece, and I have like a really strong memory of being on campus and being part of community meeting and being part of this like truly democratic kind of campus self-government in a way that I didn't experience at the other colleges and universities that I went to. And it was it could feel a little, disorganized and wild sometimes, because we really were making decisions that were going to impact our campus and our life. And I think like that really taught me like working through a 6-year community development process to build a grocery store with like 0 grocery experience. You had to really be able to sit with that uncertainty, sit with like, not being sure where the community was going to go, which way a vote was going to go. I think I definitely learned those skills at Antioch. I think, having gone to law school definitely gave me the confidence to sit in some of the rooms where we were discussing kind of like some of the community economic development finance tools that we use that I knew nothing about, new market tax credits, government grants, things like that. I do think it was helpful to have some legal education for that, although I don't think it didn't, nothing was like a direct, I didn't learn anything in law school that I directly applied, but it just, teaches you kind of a way of thinking and helps you kind of ask the right questions. But I would say that would be how my educational background impacted my path to being a community economic developer. And I don't know if, speaking of education, I don't know if everybody saw Amaha was like featured prominently in the Chronicle of Higher Education last week. Yes.
It's interesting because it just hit me like the past month that like when I did undergrad, like I was looking at supply chain management and logistics because I wanted to understand like networks and community. And it just hit me that like, it kind of came full circle because like now, like social entrepreneurship, like it fit into like it came back around, but I didn't understand, like I had no clue I'd be doing this, when I was doing my part of my undergrad. And as I was learning about supply chain management, I was already a community organizer. And I started, people kept telling me, look at sociology. And I started looking at, I started understanding more that like the stuff that I was doing in the community, that I was trying to like heal relationships and create, pathways across differences. But then I started realizing after I read Dr. King's book, A Stride Towards Freedom, that agape love was community. And so then I was like, oh, all the stuff that I was trying to do was actually community building. And so then I started going deeper into sociology and started studying everything I could about community and community developments and all these things. And now I'm learning that even my focus on community was actually all about cooperation, right? About like, how are we bringing people from differences and understanding like what is the shared future that we can co-create together, and acknowledging our interdependence and our ability to create a shared future intentionally, because we are a single garment of destiny if we want to acknowledge it or not. So now I feel like everything kind of led up to it. So my supply chain management taught me how to build networks and ecosystems, and sociology helped me understand more about economic development and structures, and now like I'm kind of applying all of it towards like how to actually live inside a space of cooperation and cooperative economic development. And because even cooperatives to me there's an economic development model, but it's also creating a social system as well. Like what are some of the prevailing ideas and how we're building deeper structural relationships by emphasizing relationships amongst people and building that level of trust of being relational instead of transactional. So now I feel like all the little pieces that I've been playing with are now all coming together, and I'm just learning how they interact and create together with amazing people in the community, including many people on this call. So, yeah.
And just to kind of like be clear also, like Amaha, the sociologist, and me, the labor lawyer, like neither one of us runs the grocery store at all. Like we have experienced retail grocery operators who we hired to run the grocery store, so it's not, though we didn't have a lot of experience, we brought our gifts and talents, we helped the community bring their gifts and talents, and then ultimately there is experienced retail grocery management.
But one thing I do want to add to that is like, so we had zero grocery store experience when we started, and we had to learn, but like, especially Lela, she has a high capacity to like learn complex things and bring them down to like, levels where I can understand it. So it's like, I really just appreciate like her education and how like, you might not know it, like, to me, like part of education is not, you don't always like study exactly what you're going to be doing later, but you build the capacity of how to relate the pieces together, and then like you take that into whatever field and endeavor you're going into, so.
I think Amaha and I have said that we work really well together because he is like a systems thinker. He understands the way that pieces fit together, and I'm just like a doer. Like if there's a thing that has to be done, I will just like figure out a way to do it.
Okay.
It's good.
We're a good team.
If I could,
Go ahead,
if
Eric.
we could come back to it at some point. I don't want to interrupt the flow too much, but to me, it's kind of the crux of what we're trying to do at Antioch with this new program is to take young people who are like you, who, you know, are going in that direction, who will end up with, you know, advanced degrees, terminal degrees, and give them the tools to do these kind of practical things. And in some ways, it's more difficult for people like Amaha and Lela to figure out how to do something practical because you're used to the abstract and the intellectual. And so that to me is, you know, really interesting, fun challenge to be addressing, you know, to equip the intellectuals with hammers and screwdrivers, and things that actually change the world, the physical world.
Right. You know, and I think that's the key, like how we get, you know, rid of the ivory tower as it is now of like, you know, creating knowledge for knowledge's sake and not like how we're applying it in the community. So like we're real big on praxis and how like we're manifesting ideas and learning from that, and then that influencing our ideas, like, you know, that loop of like how we learn more. But like I do think the key is like how to bring the ideas into the practical, like how we're bringing them out into the community. And so like the program that is being emerging at Antioch, that's why I'm so excited about it, you know, because that's the missing link, right? Of like how we manifest, because the power is in the manifestation, you know, and so like how we're birthing it, you know, and then learning from it and then birthing more.
Fine, Eric, I think you hit the nail on the head of what our goals are, you know, for this program. You know, teach the systems, teach the structures, but put students in a position to act. That's very Antiochian, and we're excited about it. So can you both speak about the work you do day to day in leading the operations of Gem City Market?
I'll start. So, you know, we really, both of us are board members. Amaha's the board president, and I sit in a seat that's designated for it's kind of like a vision seat. We built the board as with the intention for it to be majority worker owned, minority community owned, and then there's this one vision seat, which is the seat for, we didn't talk about this, but Amaha and I are the co-executive directors of Co-op Dayton, which is the nonprofit developer that actually developed the Gem City Market. And so the seat I sit in is the Co-op Dayton seat, though eventually Amaha will sit in that seat. Right now he's sitting in a placeholder seat for the worker owners, because it will take, the worker owners have to have been there for a year before they get their board seats, and they're coming up on that year next month. So he'll be in that seat till September. Well, he'll be in that seat for a while, but so all of that is to say, like, our formal role is board members. So we, you know, when you think about a board member, in some cases, a board member just, you know, it's a monthly meeting, you review some financials, maybe you serve on a committee. But I will say that Amaha and I are both extremely hands-on still. I think neither of us wants to be as hands-on as we are right now. The goal is for the market to really run itself. Through that kind of experience for grocery retail management, and that we would be more in the role of kind of vision keepers, like oversight. But, you know, we are in the first year of operating a brand new business that in a lot of ways, you know, where we started in this like really volatile moment with supply chain issues, and you've all heard all of this, right? Staffing crisis, the great resignation. So what I think, like, the role that we end up playing is community connector. Like, there are folks in the store who you know, do all the purchasing and set the prices and, you know, manage the schedule and things like that. But we know that this model was built out of community vision, and it will succeed because the community embraces it, and because we tap into those like partnerships and we activate those third spaces. And so that's a thing that the retail grocery experts don't necessarily bring to the table. So that's the role that Amaha and I play, is we like connect the market with community. We serve as kind of like the voice of community when it comes to decision making. We we serve as, I think, like thought partners for our retail strategy leadership. And then I'm still really in the day-to-day on finance, just because I built the financial model, and like, we're still in that time period where the pro forma was built around a set of assumptions, and we're still figuring out which of those assumptions was right and which was wrong. And so a lot of times there'll be, kind of questions about where those assumptions came from. And one thing that's like been amazing about this process for me personally is like, and I think this is probably true for Amaha too, like we were there when every big decision was made. We may not have made the decisions, but we have that institutional memory. We know why those decisions were made. We watched the community walk the path. And so we can like be that translator for the retail staff. And it's funny to talk about community vision in the same sentence as the pro forma and business plan, but like it actually, in a lot of cases, there's so much overlap between how our financial model reflects the values that the community imparted on us. So I don't know how to say that more concretely, except to say that like I think we serve as kind of translators between operations and vision. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would fully agree with that, and I think like, so the market's kind of complex, right? Like probably kind of not the right word, but like there's like, so how do we situate so we're movement building at the same time that like we're creating a space to ground movement as well, right? And so it's like we have 5,000 plus members, right? That was built off of participation, and like Lela said, there's like I can go into the store and I can tell, I know who made a lot of the decisions of like, you know what I mean? And that in itself generates hope, right? Because like when people realize that they have the ability to shape their future and to be a protagonist in their own story, right? And so like part of our role as like a translator is like, how do we keep that momentum going? How do we keep a spirit of participation and cooperation, and like how are we co-crafting and co-creating together, and how we're creating a sense of ownership, right? Because like we're not used to owning our own grocery store, right? Like what does that mean, and how we occupy the space and how we activate it, and so it's like we're kind of like that bridge of like how we do it. So like we're not necessarily into like how much the lettuce is or anything like that, right? But we're kind of like this larger thing, and really like how we even and training in the ownership, even with the workers, right? Because most workers have not been in a worker ownership role, right? So how we're developing leadership capacity, right? That like everybody can lead from where they're at, you know what I mean? That they can understand what they're seeing and how to translate the knowledge from their vantage point, and like what they're hearing from the community. So yeah, a lot of our role, I think, is like holding the vision, trying to walk out and keep the invitation open to like the community that we're trying to create. Like, because to me, the market in some ways is like, I like to call it a welcoming table, but like how we create the space where we're acknowledging the dignity and worth of every human being, and we're finding our tribe. Like everybody on this call is like part of our tribe. You know what I mean? It's like there's a social justice emphasis. There's a yes, humanity is greater together is a part emphasis, right? And so it's like how we're like creating spaces where that geography can build out, right? That and so like how to build the social system and the economy, around like this vision. So like that's kind of stuff that I think we do more than like the day-to-day, like and we shop there and we eat there and we hold our meetings there, so yeah.
And like for real, if anything goes wrong at the store, like we're the ones who get the call.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's a blessing to be associated with the market, but yes, I can't go anywhere where someone's gonna say two good things and one thing. Have you thought about this? But that's what we want. You know what I mean? Because like that's that part of that co-creation process, right? Of it. You know what I mean? And we got popcorn now, so like popcorn in the store to me is like, I can go wrong.
Board members on call. I like that.
Yes. Yeah, we're active board for sure.
Can you speak in general terms about your revenue sources? For example, what's the rough split between grant funding, earned income, other revenue sources?
So there's two answers to that question. There's the now, and then there's the like how the sort of how do we build, like the capital raise. So I'll start with the now. The store is meant to be supported by its own revenue. So we're doing in the neighborhood of $45,000 of retail sales a week. We need that to be higher, but we're okay for now. We are on a growth trajectory, so that's good. That will, once we grow to sales maturity and we get to where we need to be, we will be supporting all of the staffing, all of the, like all the cost of goods, like everything like that will be paid for through revenue. But, as I'm sure many of you know, like retail grocery has very razor thin margins. And so it's not gonna like produce a lot of profit, and it's not going to produce a lot of extra revenue to do things like run a teaching kitchen and have drum circles or whatever. Like those are the kinds of things that are not going to be supported. So if you think of like our actual retail pricing model looks a lot like kind of an independent urban store, like an IGA or something like that, and most of those stores do not have like a social work department or like a robust community organizing program. So we have raised grant funds and are continuing to raise grant funds to support all of the functions in the market that are not those traditional retail functions. How does that break down in terms of cost? I mean, the market should be about a $3 million annual revenue market, hopefully growing at maturity to more like 4 million, and we'll be probably raising a couple $100,000 in grant revenue. So it's mostly a retail operation with like some extra stuff that's grant funded. When it comes to raising the money to build the store, it's about a $7 million project. I can show you a slide. I know people love like specifics. Let me see if I can. If this is useful, if not, I can, but who doesn't like to get in the weeds on sources and uses, right? This was a big project. A grocery store is very expensive, the equipment package, things like that. So what you see here, as you can see, there's sort of two, there's the PropCo and the OpCo. The PropCo is the nonprofit shell that owns the physical building and all of the equipment. And so on the left at the top, you see the PropCo sources, and on the right, you see the PropCo uses. Can everyone see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. On the bottom is the OpCo, so that's actually the cooperative. So the cooperative does not own the building. The building is owned by a nonprofit. This was sort of a method that we created / iterated on, stole from other people to basically be able to bring philanthropic dollars into the project, despite the fact that the OpCo, which is the co-op, is a for-profit. I mean, it's a cooperative, so it's not really a for-profit. It's like a nonprofit corporation, but it's not a 501c3. Okay, so the bottom is the co-op's sources on the left and uses on the right. So just a couple things to point out, and my phone is now going to ring incessantly because I'm not going to answer it. You can see on the PropCo side, we had a lot of philanthropy and a lot of government support. We also had a grant from HUD and a new market tax credit transaction that netted us about $1.5 million in net benefit. All of that was basically used to build the building, and you can see those costs on the right, mostly construction, but also a lot of equipment. I will just give a shout out to your very own Anita Brown, who helped us raise some of those philanthropic dollars by helping us with some event planning. And it was a 3-year capital campaign to raise those philanthropic dollars. And then on the OpCo, you'll see that it's primarily debt. The finance fund is a debt instrument it was created basically to finance healthy food projects. It's called Healthy Food Financing Initiative. So there's federal dollars that go to an Ohio community development financial institution that then lends the money to us at like a below market, like a nice friendly debt terms. But we did have $500,000, so $500,000 of community equity. So that was, I saw a question in the chat that was, how did we set the price of the share? And the answer is we did not set the price of the share based on like what the actual value of the market would be or how much it would cost. We really set it based on what we knew would be the community's capacity to pay, knowing that we would have to build out the rest. So we knew that we were in a low wealth community. $100 felt like it was an investment, but not like an impossible dream for most people. We also did offer a $10 membership for folks who are receiving any kind of subsidy, like food stamps, utility assistance. Then it's a $10. So again, for your family, that is like, it's meaningful, it's real skin in the game, but it's not like I could never be an investor in this co-op. So yeah, $500,000 in community, small dollar community equity, which I'm very proud of. You know, that was like, even though that's only a third of the total cooperative, you know, balance sheet or whatever, it's still, it's a significant capital raise from a community that like pulled their resources together to meet a need. So.
Okay,
Thanks.
she nailed
Okay.
it.
Thank you for that, Lela. It's very insightful. There's a kind of related question next. How do you balance the social mission, you know, of your organization, you know, with the need to be profitable? Kind of the classic question, you know, for social entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean that is a dance that we are still learning. I mean, we talk often about the polarity of mission versus margin, right? And how we balance that. And I think the majority of our board is very mission aligned, and so it's like how we keep that mission focused, but also, you know, stay open. So like it's a dance that we are learning, and you know, so we have things of like multi pricing strategy inside the market, right, to increase access to, you know, food and fresh fruits and vegetables, but then also having things that have a higher margin for those that have more disposable income. You know, it's like trying to, you know, innovate. So, you know, we're fundraising to create a food for all program so that we can give a 10% discount for those that are on subsidies. And so, you know, there's different things that we're trying to create to balance that mission versus margin. But it's definitely a dance. You know, so I don't know what you want to add, Lela.
That's exactly it, and we're still figuring it out.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the keys to co-op development, because there's like, it's kind of like what Lela said in her opening, is like, you know, you really make the road by walking it, you know, and it really is a process, right? And you know, that could be scary a little bit, right? Because, you know, we're co-creating as we're walking, and sometimes it feels like we're building the plane while it's in the air. But that's part of the journey, and you know, I think it takes courage a little bit. Like someone told me yesterday that like sometimes like when you're a front runner, you're the one that's like taking all the blows, you know what I mean? As like we're cutting the road as we're moving forward, you know, and standing on the shoulders of those who come before us. Because especially when it comes to African American community, I think the misnomer is that like co-ops are a new thing, but actually co-ops were like the way that we survived, right? Like there's a great book called Collective Courage that pinpoints. You look at Du Bois, you look at Fannie Hammer, you know, like co-ops were a way because we had to build together, because, you know, we couldn't create the things by ourselves, because to me the power of co-op is that we identify our needs, and then we see how we leverage our resources together to build the industry to it, and then how we use that to flip the dollar as many times as possible. So I know that's kind of different.
Thanks for that. I think the, you know, analogy of building the plane while it's in the air, everybody at Antioch can relate to that.
Yeah, I saw my people shaking their head like, yeah.
So we'll kind of return for my final question to the question of education, and, you know, thinking back, like what would have strengthened your education to do this kind of work at Antioch or elsewhere?
I mean, I really wish somebody had talked me into taking like a basic finance class because I just didn't. It wasn't required. I like managed to avoid it. I like really didn't understand how money worked like a few years ago. I still kind of don't. Yeah, I think I think there's more to learn, but like, yeah, how does money work? Yeah, that's basic. I mean, honestly, a basic accounting class would have been helpful too. Like if I could have taken one and I didn't. That would be mine. I was like liberal arts all the way. I took all, like when I went to law school, my partner jokes, I took all the classes that ended with and the law, like gender and the law, race and the law, poverty and the law. I took all those.
Yeah. I think the kind of going to what Eric said is the practical, like so here's this thing, and then here's how it relates to the real world lived environment, and so like I had some classes that did that and some classes that didn't, but even as an educator, that's the thing that I try to do is like, I start with the real world, and I ask questions and use a curriculum that I ground it back into the real world, because I think that was missing somewhat. And so even like, I had an accounting class because I was supply chain management, which is, business administration, but it wasn't like here's how we do this in this thing, you know what I mean? So with accounting is more practical than a lot of other things, but still like how we ground, I'm just real big on experiential knowledge and like how we learn by doing, and how we can do that more. And that's why I've graced Antioch's campus many times, and I've sat in people's classes, but I haven't been through the full thing. But like the experiential part of Antioch has always it intrigued me. So.
But it is a little bit like we learned to open a grocery store by opening a grocery store, and now we'll probably never open a grocery store again. So there's a little bit there where I'm like, I'm stuck a little bit on, like, should we be grocers now? Like maybe you just have to like, if you really are going to be an innovator and you're going to like follow where the community wants to go, like you're probably going to end up doing a lot of things you're really unprepared to do in the end.
You know what? Yeah, that's real.
Like I learned to
open up more than one grocery store. I'm claiming it. So.
I'm hoping we will open another grocery store soon. Yeah. But we might not, and that would be okay.
Yeah, that's real. That's okay. If it doesn't happen, but yeah, I got to fill them.
Thanks for that. Let's open it up. Eric is in the queue. I believe Anita is in the queue as well.
So I just wanted to say thank you, Lela, because that's been the push. It's like you're saying that not having taken a business course and accounting course is that's why we're doing this. And fortunately, we have faculty members who get it and are doing it. And so really appreciate your saying that. It's like a plug for the program.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, Lela, you were talking about, you said it's kind of strange to talk about the financial model and the vision sort of in the same sentence. And it seems to me that any mission-driven organization should be totally putting their eye on the budget and how it relates to the mission. I think we at Antioch can do that a whole lot better. And I'm curious what specific things are in your financial model or specific budgeted items that really tie back to your mission.
I mean, like I think the like easiest example to go to is like our labor budget. So if you look at, has anybody been to, I'm trying to think of like a grocery store, like remember the old IGA in Yellow Springs? This is not a good example for most people. I'm just trying to think of like, so a typical like grocery store that is independent. So it's not a Kroger, it's not a Walmart, it's like an independent small grocery store, and there's not very many left. They are setting their margin their gross margin. So like how much are they gonna, like averaging across all their departments, how much are they gonna have left after cost of goods? Am I getting too deep in the weeds here? Okay. They're gonna set their gross margin relatively low, like 27, 28%, because they want to keep their prices low, but that means they only have 27 or 28% of their sales left to pay for all their expenses other than their cost of goods. And if they want to pay a living wage, if they want to have like a robust staff, if they want their staff to be happy, then they only just have like such a small amount to play around with. What's left, like if occupancy is 10%, then you're talking like 19% of sales to pay your labor. So we had to really like think smart about like how do we turn up the dial of gross margin a little bit so we have a little bit more money to pay living wage, to like provide the services that our community deserves, to have a butcher in the store and not just, you know, to have the produce department looking beautiful and not with a bunch of like wilted stuff. That costs labor hours, labor dollars. So we have to turn up our gross margin a little bit, but then how do we do that without pricing out the very people that we most want to serve? We haven't figured that out yet. Our prices are not quite right yet, but there's a lot about how you blend your margin, how you blend your prices so that you can squeeze every dollar out of your sales, still serve your customer, but also like meet your mission of being, of having like living wage shops. So that's the toughest one. It's the stool, the three-legged stool, and if you pull one out, then it all falls over. But yeah. That's what I would say. And I think if I had just taken like a basic accounting or financial management class in college and it had just been like lemonade stand accounting, I probably would have been miserable. But doing it in real time, and I'm thinking about our people, I'm thinking about our shoppers, I'm thinking about our workers, like it makes it so much more meaningful. It feels more connected to our mission. Like that is what makes it like exciting and interesting to like stare at your, you know, cash flow analysis or whatever, your dashboard.
Yeah, you know, something that you're making me think about is like I forget the name of the book, but there's like it's like math for social justice, right? And so it's like how you use math principles, but it's in a way that's social justice oriented. And so like how to to me, like when we're talking about social entrepreneurship, it's like how we're building like the liberal arts piece and like this humanity piece, and then how to like ground that in like, you know, business and entrepreneurship, right? And so like how instead of seeing them as like two separate things with no interconnection, how they're interconnected in their the intersectionality of it or something. I don't know the word for it, but like how they dance and create something together, you know, and how to bring that into the community, like that applied, you know, experiential part, you know what I mean? And so yeah, so I just, when I'm hearing everybody talk, there's this thing that keeps coming to my mind.
Yeah, thank you both, and it's great to hear like concrete figures that really actually helps kind of, you know, us understand exactly kind of the environment you're operating in. Robert has the next in the queue.
Have to turn on the mic. Sorry, I have a couple of questions. I'll just go through them and then you can decide what you want to answer, not to answer. First simple thing is I'm not familiar with the area where you're located. Just curious how far the closest commercial competitive grocery store is located. Then I'm curious. That's one question. Next question related to the building itself. I presume you started with an existing structure rather than going from scratch, because if there were grocery stores in the area, I would have presumed you would have been very attracted to that space. Also, I presume you own the land and are not leasing. Then within the next question is, are you cash flow positive on the actual grocery store operation? Then finally, things to consider for the future are, have you considered a pharmacy, boulangerie, a bakery, and delivery service? That's the plethora of questions I have, so I'll let you take them and choose what you want to ask or not.
How about like yes, no, and yes, no. Do you want me to start, Amaha, or do you want to start?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. Let me think. So the really obvious like yes or no question. So we're not cash flow positive yet, but we're we're in the dip and we're in the right trajectory and we have the working capital. Like our cash flow projections we're prepared to go through it and come back up, and then we will be cash flow positive by I think the end of the year. The question about building. Okay, so it's interesting. So we're located on the corner of Salem and Superior, for those people who know Dayton, and there were 3 supermarkets in that neighborhood. There was a Shears and a small Kroger. This is like not even the Kroger on Gettysburg. This is like a small Kroger like in the 70s that was there. And then there was a third one, all 3 like very small, not very small, but small footprints. And all 3 were torn down. When we first started our planning in 2015, when we were just like a group of community activists sitting around in a room at Central State, just like hashing it out, like what are we going to do about this food desert, which is what we called it at the time. We thought that we would take over a closed Kroger store on Gettysburg Avenue that was about a 50,000 square foot store. We thought that we would take it over and build a grocery store within that same footprint. That seemed like it would make sense. And the city,
like 6 months. Oh yeah.
No biggie. And then and then the city actually was like willing to help us acquire the property. Like that was really the plan that we had. As we learned more about the industry, the first kind of really important advice we got was like, you have to build where there's density. You have to so basically like do a market study. Like we did a traditional retail grocery. We hired like a retail grocery real estate analyst to come to Dayton and look at like 5 or 6 different sites that were all possible, including the Kroger on Gettysburg that we thought we were going to renovate. And what we found was that just like the ground in Dayton just shifted in the years after that grocery store was built. So that neighborhood was a like middle-class Black neighborhood that was all single-family homes, and the economic downturn of 2008 and 9 just devastated it. So there was like the huge foreclosure crisis. There was like more, because predatory loans in housing were really targeted intentionally at Black families. Like there was more foreclosure in the neighborhood, and a lot of folks who lived in those homes were, middle class folks who entered the middle class because they had factory jobs at GM and Delphi and all of those, jobs that Dayton used to have. That actually, where there was actually some, colorblind opportunities for prosperity. Not colorblind, that's the wrong word, but like at least there were like there was a multiracial working class, let's put it that way. So double whammy, foreclosure crisis, loss of all of those jobs. That neighborhood where that Kroger had been could no longer support a grocery store, according to these retail experts. But by moving a couple miles away to Salem Avenue, where there's a ton of apartment buildings, there was more population density. There were fewer vacants, more smaller homes, more apartments. So there was actually enough rooftops to support that retail operation. Sorry, it's kind of like gets into the weeds here, but so we chose this is like balancing mission and margin. We moved away from the neighborhood that had been the most economically devastated into a neighborhood that, while still 80% African American, $28,000 median household income, still a food desert, but was just more dense in terms of population. So there's more dollars to come into our store. So we did own the land. There was a building on the land that could have potentially been big enough with a little bit of renovation. And that was our initial thought, but then it was like full of asbestos. So we tore it down and built a brand new, beautiful building, and you should all come and see it. And now I can't remember any of the other questions.
I think the only other one really didn't get to, and appreciate you taking them all, is the avenues to, sorry, I've got a phone that's, don't want to answer. The avenues for opportunities to expand the store, not necessarily in terms of square footage, but in terms of what you could add to the existing floor plan, perhaps reduce other areas, would be a pharmacy and a boulangerie, a bakery, as well as possibly incorporating delivery service, which is in vogue these days. Not one comment, not with me. I love going grocery shopping.
You know, it's interesting. Like delivery has like seen as like it's like the holy grail or something. Like it is a hard thing to kind of figure out because there's a lot of pieces to the delivery, because you know, like if you hire people to like once the order is made, do we? Oh yeah, Kroger's is about 3 miles. Bus ride takes 2 buses to get there, 2 buses back, so about 3-hour process right now. But like that is something that we've been working on and still like on our radar, but it is a lot more complicated. And how to do it in a way that the mission versus margin, right? Like how to do it in a way that is doable and feasible with limited capacity. It really is like you know, it's a struggle to get to.
In that regard, I sent Eric an article regarding Amazon's efforts in the grocery business. I don't know if he sent it on to you, but I found it interesting, and also for them it was perplexing. It was not something they could simply master and overwhelm the competition.
I feel them.
Yeah, it's you know, it sounded, and I mean, to keep it real, at one point we even had a delivery co-op, you know, so it was like he thought it was going to be like a no-brainer, but like it is a lot more complex than we understood when we got down to like the nitty-gritty of how to do it, you know. So
what about the bakery idea and/or the pharmacy idea?
You know what I'd be curious to hear Lela's answer. One thing interesting about the bakery, right, is that was our initial vision, and we put it out to the community, and the community was like, I don't know if I want a bakery. So we're like, okay, you know, like, what do we know? And so we didn't do it. And then once we opened, it became a thing that people wanted.
Everybody was like, where's the bakery?
And it's like, well, damn, like we that was on the initial thing, and we scrapped it because people didn't want it. And
It wasn't a thing that lit people on fire, but now we're realizing that so we are adding some. We got a really generous donation of equipment from Henny Penny, which is a local equipment manufacturer that makes kitchen equipment. So we have like these combi ovens, so we actually have the equipment to do a more full service bakery than we currently have. And Dennis, who's our interim GM, is actually expanding our bakery offerings. And I'll just mention, we also have soup and salad now at lunchtime. Come on in.
I was going to say on the bakery side, it's capital intensive, but if you've got the equipment effectively for nothing, the margins on products that we sell are extremely high.
The margins are extremely high, and it's right now it's figuring out the staffing model to do it so that we don't have to add staff, but can just add bakery tasks to our existing staff. But so it's, you know, it's like, how do we run a lean deli operation and add bakery to it? I think we can do it. Dennis thinks we can do it. Amaha thinks we can do it. We just haven't done it yet. Pharmacy is a good, we would need a partner for pharmacy. Five Rivers Health Centers is a federally qualified health center in Dayton. They have talked about opening a pharmacy on our site. And at one point they were also talking about putting pharmacy lockers. So maybe not a full service pharmacy, but where you could actually like have your prescription delivered to a locker that you have like the Amazon locker, like you have a code to. I think that could still happen. Still more to come. You know, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
Thank you. Louisa is next in stack.
I will just be really quick because I want to be respectful of people's time, but I just wanted to applaud you both and, you know, thank you for coming. But like really, I've been just following from afar, and unfortunately, my work here at Antioch is so consuming that I haven't been able to really be involved or be kind of more close up. But this was so helpful for me today to just really here getting into the weeds. We in co-op are all about the weeds. I'm in the co-op department. We are that experiential program that is a lot, and we are often find ourselves in the weeds. So I just found this to be really informative, but also just so inspiring. And I want to extend that. Obviously, it's a much larger group of people. I recognize the two of you, but I just wanted to say, you know, bravo. Like, it's really incredible, the work, and brings hope to, as I'm hearing from Amaha, to all of the owners and community. But I mean, even like, I feel the ripple effect even here in our broader Miami Valley of that hope. It's really significant. And I'll just say, as a kind of a final plug, we're really excited about this new social entrepreneurship and innovation curricular focus, and how we're going to be partnering with co-op and these new classes and a lot of Dean and Kevin's work, and are always excited to look for new partnerships and ways that our students can get involved. So more conversation to come, but like, thank you both. It's really just a pleasure.
Yeah.
Just real quick, is there a co-op opportunity there? I'm sure you've already thought that.
Yes, please. We'd love to have a co-op. We had a recent alum who was one of our heaviest leader volunteers, a 2017 graduate, Maya Easter, and Maya Conastu, and now Easter. But yeah, we would love to host a co-op at Co-op Dayton, at the market, wherever the co-op wants to be. We have also 5 other programs that we haven't talked about at all that a co-op might be interested in.
Yay,
That is
we'll
great
be in touch. Yay.
Eric is next in queue, followed by Kevin.
Well, what I wanted to say really dovetails with Louisa, with her comments. I was thinking about partnerships, and then also, want to plug again the entrepreneurship program, but also, when we were talking to set this up, we had talked about the connection with the Antioch Farm as well, and that is still something that we're very interested in. Just want to say that again. And the farm and the entrepreneurship programs are very much a whole lot of overlap and crossover there. And then also one more little plug that maybe incentivizes it a little is that there's co-op money in the Meg Hansen Project Fund. So we can we want to spread it as far as we can get it, but it may be able to kind of make it an easier thing for you to do. I'm wondering about your partnerships in 2 regards. One, you have a mission that is very broad in terms of community and being a resource to the community, but you can't necessarily provide all of the things that the community needs, but you have space. And so I wonder if you have partnerships that way that kind of facilitates other initiatives in the community. And then coupled with that, 2 separate questions but related is, can that or is that revenue source for you? So if you have community partnerships maybe that are not revenue positive, but presumably at least with renting space or something like that to another organization, there could be financial benefit from that.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like we joke, maybe not joke, that our superpower is building collaboration. We love partnerships, and we pride ourselves in the ability to do that, and really using a collective impact type of model of how different partners can come together to leverage it, asset-based community development. And within that, it's I think it's exploring how the market can serve different functions, right? And even being a learning laboratory, right? Where it's we're developing practices, like with partnerships with colleges and different things of like how we are like experimenting and trying things and growing. So I definitely be interested to explore and even like what what are the different capacities and how we merge those together through the market or whatever. So like I think I'm thinking about the farm and different things and the program and like how the co-op thing, like how all these things can work together. And we haven't right now we have not built, and Lela may have a different answer, but like I don't know if we build our partnerships in a way that's like a revenue model at this time. You know what I mean? I think that's something to explore. But like but we haven't yet, to my knowledge.
Dennis is our GM. He just came to me this week with like room rental charges, and it's very controversial because so many people gave us so much to build this project. So much money came together to build this project from every corner of the community that I've been really committed to making this space available for free to all our partners. So like people come in and teach classes in our teaching kitchen. People come in and use our community room. Amaha just hosted a bunch of like middle school kids, right, who came for, but I do think as we move past our first year, we will start to think about ways that we can, like get paid for our expertise, get paid for our services, and also maybe room rentals, catering, stuff like that. I would like to, we couldn't do that right away, but I think it's an area.
And I think that's a perfect example of that this mission versus margin thing, right? Because of like how are we increasing access? How are we, being something that's rooted in the community, but then like how at the same time, because like there's costs associated, right? And staffing time and all these things. So like trying to find this nuanced balance. And I think part of like mission versus margin is, in my own personal opinion, is having the conversation with the community. So like the community is having the mission margin conversation, right? That like we're understanding like where are we trying to go together? What is this thing that we're co-creating? Because we're a co-op, right? And so like I think like having that aspect, talk about the dynamics of it, and then we plot our way forward together.
Kevin is next in Stack.
Can you talk a little bit more about the staffing, like numbers and challenges and also does
Kevin, you're muted.
and I was going on and on. Sorry. Can you talk a little bit about the staffing, like the numbers and challenges? You mentioned the GM. I think you said interim, and also as part of the co-op structure, is there an opportunity for profit participation, incentivization through that?
Let's start with.
Sure. So we currently have 25 staff. We will be growing to north of 30. The staff is the average wage right now is north of 15. Starting is like 12.50. Yeah, but the people who've been there from the beginning are all making close to $20 an hour, and it's like the people who've stayed, people who've like because we did have extreme turnover during the summer and a lot of like churn, but there was like about 17 people who stayed from the beginning. So I guess, it doesn't sound like that many, but like we started with 27, 17 of them are still there. The deli, for example, turned over twice since we've opened. Like that has been insane and hard. And, I think part of it is like, because the opening was so hard, like when we opened, we were not ready. And so like those early months were like, the people who really believed in the mission and were there to do the work, like we're working like 18-hour days. I mean, including our like amazing startup GM.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say we finally have kind of leveled off, and our startup GM, she poured everything she had into the market. She was like an incredible talent. I'm really sad to see her go, but she's left, and so we have an interim GM with us who's been with us for about a month now, and we'll stay until we hire a permanent GM. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, like, it's been challenging, but I think the people who have stayed, like, they're like stronger for it. Like, the co-op mentality is really strong. The way that our profit sharing is set up is that when we are profitable, which even in our, like, you know, fantasy projections, is not for 4 years. So in a while we'll have profit. The profit is, so under Ohio's cooperative law, profit that is attributable to patronage gets distributed to the members. And what that means is, like, you take all of the sales and you figure out the percentage of it that was actually purchased by members of the cooperative, and that's your patronage portion. And then same thing with, like, the labor hours. You take all of the labor hours and whatever percentage of those labor hours were performed by worker members. That's your anyway, so that's the percentage of the profit that gets distributed. The profit sharing is set up so that 70% of profits, like after the board makes investments, after everything, is distributed to the worker owners, based on the number.
You want to move somehow? Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, based on number of hours a day.
Based on the number of hours that they work. So there's no multiplier. You know, some co-ops have multipliers based on seniority or things like that. We just purely distribute it based on how much they've worked. And then 30% goes to the community membership, which will be like little tiny rebates. It'll be like and it'll be based on how much you've shopped. So if you're like a heavy shopper of the Gem City Market and we have a great year, you might get like a $5 rebate at the end of the year.
Yeah, I remember when we first started selling shares, I had friends thinking that they were going to retire and be millionaires. I'm like, no, it's not, you know, it's not that type of deal, right? But one thing that I'm learning, like, when we talk about the power of the workers, right, is that, like, in a worker co-op, how they really can serve as the front line as far as co-op education, you know, really being like organizers to a certain extent, as far as, like, you know, helping to translate the vision and you know, talking to, you know, member owners in this community in general, and that feedback loop, right? And so that's something that I think we're really trying to build more, like how to be a worker owner, and even like moving from like customer service to like how we're creating more like belonging as a community. You know what I mean? As like a standard, you know. So yeah. So it's all learnings.
I forgot to mention, I
Anyone else have a question?
have been
Sorry.
to the market once in the summer. I did shop there. It's a beautiful space. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming through.
Any final questions for Lela and Amaha? Well, thank you both. This was fascinating, enlightening. We really appreciate your time. We know how busy you are. Thank you for coming, and we're going to be in touch for sure.
Cool. Thank you. You know, it's a pleasure to be here to witness. And congratulations again on the program. I am so excited.
Thank you.
So yeah,
We're excited too.
Good to see everybody.
Guys, have a great weekend, everyone.
yeah, you too.
Take care, everybody.